Still no official statements yet from either side on whether they've reached some kind of consensus, but President Donald Trump believes it's, quote, going very well, tweeting just a short time ago. Let's get more from Sara Hsu. She's an associate professor of economics at the State University of New York. Sara, putting aside what President Donald Trump tweeted, that these talks are going well, not much information coming from either side. Does that tell us anything one way or another?
No, we don't really know what went on, but we do know what happened in the past. In the past, there were a lot of attempted negotiations that didn't work out, and two sides attempted to reach some sort of agreement. Last year in April, President Xi said he would lower tariffs on vehicles. There was also some agreement between Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Liu He for the U.S. to set aside tariffs in exchange for increased agricultural and energy sales to China and expanded access for investment in China. And President Trump rejected all of these offers. So what is at stake now is pretty great. I mean, the U.S. has asked China to set aside its flagship policy, Made in China 2025, which it's almost impossible that this is going to happen. China is trying to push forward its technology regime, and the U.S. Wants China to.
Well, let me get there. There's a lot of questions I want to get to as far as the nuts and bolts of what's really at stake here. The Global Times, which is published by the ruling Communist Party of China, says Washington cannot push China too far. What does China see in this dispute as pushing too far?
Well, I think that the U.S. is really concerned that China is going to get far ahead of it in terms of technology. And some of that is truly legitimate and some is a little bit less justified. So the part that is legitimate is that the U.S. has been pushing for a elimination of forced technology transfers by Chinese firms to American firms doing business in China. And there's been a lot of complaints about that from American firms. China is now trying to address that with a new law, but American officials say that it doesn't go far enough. The more legitimate part, or the less legitimate aspect of that is that China would reduce its technology innovations, which simply doesn't make sense. I mean, it seems that if the U.S. wants to be more competitive, that the U.S. should push for such policies in its own country.
Some of the biggest issues, as you mentioned, allegations of intellectual property theft, market access. Do you believe until that March 1st deadline, the two sides can really, in all honesty, realistically, reach some kind of agreement on stubborn issues that have really not gone away?
No, I don't think so. I think that, essentially China doesn't view itself as violating American businesses' rights in terms of forced technology transfer as the U.S. does. And so they don't see eye to eye. China doesn't necessarily see the U.S.-China trade surplus as being a problem, although it is willing to make some concessions. And tensions have really increased. We saw that there was a U.S. warship that was entering Chinese waters, sort of disputed waters. And more recently, a month ago, there was the arrest in Canada of the daughter of the Huawei founder. And that was really, these things have really increased tensions between the countries. And I don't see the issue is going away by March 1st.
The World Bank, Sara, is expected to release its economic prospects report today. Of course, at a time this trade dispute is really rattling global markets, causing concerns about slowing economic growth, not just in China and the United States, but really around the world. What can we expect to see in this report?
I think that, projections will really be contingent upon what happens in the trade war, as well as in terms of the global economy as a whole. We're seeing a lot of volatility in markets because there is a huge amount of uncertainty over what's going to happen. And markets around the world are experiencing the same volatility. So we don't really know, and the World Bank projections will really depend on what's going to happen in this year.
All right, we'll leave it there. Sara Hsu joining us from Knoxville, Tennessee. Thank you.